everybody, it's Dr. Mark with US 1061757 Auto Events and your Coastal Virginia Auto Show. I'm out here with John Herbert from ClearShine. We're also out here with Jeffrey Snyder. Now, we have come all the way from Virginia Beach all the way to Manassas, Virginia. It was a nice ride, right?
Well, we toured Hampton Roads before we left this morning due to some GPS errors and
operator error and
discussion on which way we wanted to go, and then it was like, why are we in downtown Norfolk and coming across? And anyway, we finally got out of Hampton Roads and
out here in Manassas. So again, hours later, we're out here. Very exciting. We're out here at pretty much Jeff's farm, I guess, right?
Yeah, my wife likes to call it a farm.
Yeah.
I'm not ready for that stage.
Understood. So anyways, we're out here in Manassas, Virginia. We came out here because Jeff has been coming to the Coastal Virginia Auto Show almost since the inception of it,
I think
right?
I only missed that first one.
Yeah, 17, 18, 19, and then we skipped 20, you know, whatever happens with that.
we didn't skip.
Yeah.
We had the online,
virtual show. That's
yeah.
right. All right, but anyways, he's got a new car we're going to talk about, but let's go ahead and we're going to catch up on some things. I'm going to let John and Jeff get after this stuff because John's a Camaro guy, Jeff is a Camaro guy. He's got two of them in here. He also has his 55 over here as well. But anyways, we are on the road. We're excited about this. We want to say thank you to all of our sponsors and supporters and all that other stuff. But I'm going to get out of the way and let these guys get after it, okay? We'll see you guys real soon.
Well, Jeff, it's I'm glad to have my first on the road in probably 5-6 months now. So I'm glad to be back on here and come up here to Manassas and see you. Was excited, that we were going to get to see. I was going to get to see the Camaros here with you, although I have seen this one down at the Coastal Virginia Auto Show. So tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, we just talked about your location.
Right.
You're a software engineer.
Yeah. Well, I grew up in Virginia Beach. That's my biggest tie to going back. From the
Retired military.
My father was in the Navy, so he was at Oceana. So I stayed in Virginia Beach until '83, until I went to William & Mary, and then graduated with a BS in computer science. And at that time, I could have gotten a job in the area for maybe $10 an hour computer science.
Right.
So I moved up to this area, the Northern Virginia area, and worked in McLean for my first job, and been stuck here since then.
So one of the questions that I always like to ask is, how did you get into this? Was this something your dad passed on to you, or was this something that from a little kid that you got started with, or is it something you've?
My dad wasn't in, he wasn't into cars per se. I mean, he was actually an aircraft engineer or mechanic. So maybe that's where I got, some of my interest. But he didn't do a lot with our cars at that, when I was a kid. But I always loved cars. I mean, I had Hot Wheels and Matchbox cars since I was like 5 years old.
So your teenage years, maybe you got into this? Or
yeah,
was it later?
My first car, actually, the first car I had was a Pontiac Sunbird, if you can remember those.
Yep.
And I found a J.C. Whitney catalog, if you remember that company.
Yep.
I had a front spoiler that I put on it. I had a rear spoiler that I put on it. I put some 15-inch mag wheels. So it was a maroon 79 Pontiac Sunbird that I had kind of resto modded back in the day. So that's sort of where my interest started to grow. And then, after got up here, and then probably about 7 years after I started working up here, I bought my first Classic, and that was a 69 Corvette Roadster.
Okay.
So, and I started working on it, and it's just moved on since then. I had a 2001 Z06, so I had the two vets before I got married, and I've always loved Camaros. I sold those two Corvettes, and I started buying different Camaros back then. It's evolved since then.
Right.
I didn't get into shows until probably 15 years later, 13, 15 years later, and I started doing shows back in 2007, 2008 timeframe.
So, you built this? You built your garage here?
Yeah, well, I didn't physically build it. I actually did everything as far as the inside. I had a buddy do the electrical work, but had a company from Pennsylvania come down and build the pole barn, and then did all the inside work on it.
And this is nice. This is spacious in here. You've got a 4-post lift and a 2-post lift here, and then you're building a garage. Or you have a garage in the back. Does it also have a lift in it? And
No, it's only
you just move your stuff
it's
in here
maybe a
with them?
third of this size, and it was intended just for tearing down cars. And if I, once I got to the point I wanted to learn how to paint and do body work, I could do all the messy stuff back there.
Right. So, and then we see you look around. You've got all your signs and whatnot in here.
Mm-hmm.
You were talking that they're all reproduction and whatnot. When did you get into going through and doing signs? And has that always been something you've been interested in, or was it build a garage and then put stuff up on the wall?
Yeah, I mean, even the first house that I bought 25, 30 years ago, I'd buy a couple signs and start putting them on the garage wall. And it's just the collection has grown over time.
Right.
I did start buying some originals, years ago, and as we talked about.
Well, as we've talked, they are very pricey now.
Yeah.
So you really got to want them. And like you said, you might not have any cars in the garage here by the time
I saw one
purchase signs.
sign that sold for over $100,000 on Facebook a few weeks back.
So one of the things that I take note of as we walk around it, you're big, and you mentioned it. You're big on resto mods.
Mm-hmm. So
let's start with the 69 behind us, and maybe we need to, cover your face because you were talking about the guy that you bought this from. They never forgive you, but you said you've owned this for 4 years?
2 years.
2 years, and you went through and pretty much right after you got it, went through and resto modded. So explain a little bit. When you got it, it was a pristine Camaro, and then you transitioned from there to.
It was a full rotisserie restoration, so I have pictures of everything that he did. One of the things that really struck me when I saw the pictures was that he took pictures of the with the door panel off the car and all of the hardware inside of the door, things that people don't even mess with when they restore a car. Perfect. The plating was correct. There was no signs of rust. It looked like it was just made yesterday.
Right.
And it's every aspect of this car was, done to that level. And, you see a lot of the Camaros where the guys restore them, and they've got the markings on the firewall, and they've got different markings on different, members or whatever, cross members and things like that. And it had all that. And,
so those of us, that are into the original would call that sacrilegious.
Oh, the only thing that I can say was it wasn't the original motor. So for those of you that are watching, it didn't have the original engine.
Sure.
Yeah. So I wasn't going to do that to a numbers car. But.
So step us through on what all you did. This was a 502, I think you said.
It's a 383. It's a 550 horse.
550 horse. That's right. Okay.
So the thing that I really like about this is that it's clean. I like the look where there's not many wires showing, there's not many hoses showing. The shop that I worked with down in North Carolina, they're very good at fabrication. So you can see the panels that they fabricated. You can see the firewall that they flattened for me.
Right.
This panel here, I don't know if you noticed when it was at the show last fall, if you look at it, and this was a neat idea, that's actually part of a hood.
Sure.
He took an original hood that he had lying around, he cut it off so that it would mimic, and look exactly like the hood itself. So we dropped in, the previous car had a 350 in it, probably 350, 300 horse or whatever, nothing fancy, nothing powerful. So we did, the 383, 550 horse. It's got a 700 R4 in it, or a built turbohydromatic 350 in it with a shift kit. It's got a 12 volt. But again, the overall goal was to make this as clean, and as crisp as possible under the hood.
Color change?
No.
Same color?
Same color.
Okay.
Yeah, and we didn't change anything as far as the body of the car. Like I said, this was already painted.
Gotcha.
So.
And you said you went through and you got 4-wheel discs on here.
4-wheel disc.
Anything to the
connectors.
interior is all pretty much the same?
It's a TMI interior, so it's all color coded or color matched to the car itself. So it's got a different console, new gauge package, dash cover, excuse me. but you know.
Now,
this-
the work you were saying, did they just do the engine, or did they do all the work you're talking about here as far as the company, the
Yeah.
place you went to down in North
Yep.
Carolina did
They did
all this work
everything,
for you?
yep.
Okay.
And that same company has done all the work on both of these cars as
Now, how
well.
did you end up with them?
I had a car that I was going to have restored in Ohio years ago, and I lent the gentleman some money. We became friends, and I lent him some money. He built one car for me, and then he was supposed to do a restoration of another Camaro for me. And it dragged on for about 6 years. I never got my money back, never got the car restored. Had to go to court, and it was a messy situation. So brought that car back here, and I had been watching, because I was in the Corvettes previously. I was on the Corvette forum, and there was a young fellow named Joe Lutz that had detailed every step of the process of restoring a 57 Chevy. So it showed all the body work that he did, how he repaired rust, and it was the way that I thought things should be done. There was no Bondo, it was everything was welded in properly and nice and tight, and I remembered him, so that's when I got started with his shop in North Carolina.
Okay, very good.
And he proved that it was worth the effort to go down and have him start doing some stuff for me.
So I'm assuming, is this a driver, you drive it around here at least locally, or is it in the trailer all the time?
No, all my cars
Drive.
get driven to shows.
Very
If it's less than maybe 70, 80 miles, I'll drive them.
Yeah. Very good. So I don't know, I noticed that you have what every car guy dreams of is, kind of his man cave in his car. But what I did see is that there's only one seat in here. So is there, nobody else?
I used to have two lazy
Couches
boys.
and
No, I used to have two lazy boys, and the intent was for my youngest daughter to come out and hang out with me. But she's now almost 18, and 18-year-olds are not going to hang out with their dads.
Yeah,
anymore,
sure. Right.
unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, that was
So-
all in jest. I would just.
Unless you're feeding them.
Unless you're exactly. All right. Well, let's go over and talk about the 70 here, which is this is a newer purchase than the 69, right?
Yeah, a little less than a year.
So what's the background on this one, and where did you find it, and
Found this
were you
one-
looking, or did you just stumble on this?
No, I was looking. I've always wanted a second-gen Camaro, and I've always liked the look of them. Especially if they're, lowered.
Right.
They have a pretty good look to them when they're rest-mounted. At least, I feel like they do.
So did this come as we see it, or did you
No.
go through and do a lot of the work again?
Similar types of things. New wheels and tires. It sat, the back end probably sat about 4 inches higher than it's sitting right now.
Oh.
There was a gap at least this much above the old tires. And it still had 18s all the way around, but it wasn't, the suspension wasn't set up properly to make it look good.
Right.
So again, it had front wheel disc brakes, but went and did 4-wheel disc brakes, the Willwoods. Did the 19s on the front and 20s on the back. It had the LT1 or LS1 already in it, but it looked like it came straight out of an early 90s Corvette or late 90s Corvette. It still had the red covers,
right.
So it looked exactly like a Corvette engine. So we put a different intake on it. Obviously put the valve covers that hold the coil packs,
Right.
just to make it look old school. Did the black look. I was hesitant. If you can see from my other cars, I'm big into, the chrome and the billet and stuff.
Right.
But Joe talked me into going with the black look on this car, and I have to say that I like the way it turned out.
It does look good, yeah. What do you know what the horsepower is coming out of this
It's
one?
because it's the original LS1. It's not much.
Not
I mean,
much.
it's in the 360, 370 range.
Anything else to the drivetrain? Did you do anything, or is that all?
No, it's a 700 R4. It's got a 10 volt. The plan is probably, after the fact, I've decided that I think I want to put an LS3 in this.
Okay.
and I want to put a 4L60E in it. I've always wanted to autocross, and we did some suspension stuff, to tighten up the suspension. Like I said, we lowered the car. So I have a feeling that I'm going to go with an LS3 just to get some more lower end horsepower.
Right.
This has the problem of, if you're familiar with a lot of the early LS1s, they have the valve train noise.
Right.
And this one has that same issue. And it bugs me. I mean, I pride myself on, my car's looking good and sounding good.
Yeah.
And this has that, it sounds like it needs a valve job.
Right.
But it doesn't. It doesn't. And that bugs the heck out of me.
And then any changes on the interior?
I'm actually doing a new interior probably within the next 3 months.
Okay.
So I'll have a completely new, more modern looking interior in it.
Very good.
Any direction with that interior yet?
It's going to be similar to like what you saw with the blue car. It'll be a combination of red and black in this case. Probably be very similar to what the interior that's in the 55. Probably, or may go with, since I want to do autocross, where I can put a harness on the seats and just get a better seat.
Now, are these, both of these, are these ones that you will now keep? Or are you looking to, at some point,
No, I mean, I'm getting up there in age, so I don't, and this could change tomorrow like any car guy, but I don't envision getting rid of these anytime soon. Certainly the 55, if I get to the point that I'm 70 or whatever, I would say that my 55 is probably the car that, if I pare down to one car, it's the one I'm probably going to stick with. But right now I have no reason or plan
to do. Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
As they're sitting right now between the two Camaros, whenever you drive them, which one turns more heads?
This one.
Gotcha. And which one do you favor more? Because that one's got more horsepower. So which one do you prefer? We're going out for a Sunday drive. Pick one.
I would take this one.
Right on.
And that's even with the horrible sounding valve.
Yeah.
Now, when this has an LS3 in it, then it'll really not be a choice. But then ask me the same question about these two.
Mm-hmm.
It's not close. I mean, that car.
It's got history.
It's got history, and I don't know what it is about it. I mean, that car's not perfect, but it turns the most.
Over here
it's crazy how well it does. The 69 Camaro, I mean, this car cannot hold a candle to the 69 Camaro, but this does immensely better, it shows.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's this is a different memory strand on a lot of people.
Yeah.
So give us a little background on this one. This one obviously has some meaning to you. Going how far back on this one?
I've had this one for about 8 years. So I found this one in Ohio. It was, as they told me, it was a dealer, and I hesitate to buy classic cars from dealers, but this guy, seemed fairly straight up. So, I went out to Ohio and looked at it and liked it. But supposedly it was a car that was started in Florida back in the early 2010 time frame, and the guy spent too much money on it, and his wife made him get rid of it.
Oh.
So it was a rotisserie restoration. It had just a 350 in it. It had turbo hydromatic 350 in it and original rear end in it. But it was a nice quality rotisserie restoration. You can walk around to different parts of the car and can see issues, or at least I can see issues where things that I would fix, or look in some of the crevices and the paint's not to the level that I would like it to be. But when I bought it, the paint didn't look this good, but I noticed that it was very flat, and I thought this might be really, really nice with a good wet sanding.
Yeah.
And you can see that it ended up. That's what happened, is that the gentleman, whoever did the body work, did do a pretty nice job. They just didn't take the time to finish it off properly.
Right.
So it's pretty flat. There's no Bondo that I've seen anywhere. There's no panels that have been worked over. It's a very solid car. So, like I said, the same gentleman that worked on the blue Camaro, this was one of the cars that probably the second car that he worked on for me. And I wanted something more modern. We're going to go with a big block, and he talked me into going with the LS3. And at that time, you didn't see many LS engines that didn't look like LS engines.
Right.
And he said, no, I've got ways to make it look old school. So we went with the Speedmaster stack injection. And unless you look for the lack of a distributor, if you're not looking closely, you can't really tell that that's an LS engine. But that's a 525 horse LS3. It's got the ASA cam in it, so it's got a nice sound to it. It's not like a modern Vet where the LS is quiet. This has some thump to it, which is nice. And then we've got the 4L60E transmission, and that has the manual valve body in it. So I've got a sports shifter that I can drop all the way over and just manually control all of the shifts.
Oh, very good. Okay.
So it's the benefit of a manual transmission, so to speak, without having to push the clutch, without having to be good at pushing the clutch, and timing it.
So you were saying that this was, what pulls at your heartstrings on this one? You were saying that probably out of the three, this is potentially your most favorite. So is there history, not necessarily with this car, but with the 55, 67?
No, actually, not at all. No? I mean, I had a 57 a few years prior to owning this one, and it wasn't anywhere near the level of this one, but it was a nice car. But it's not like owning that car drove me to want to having this one.
Right.
It's just, this car is just a lot of fun to drive.
Yeah, so coming back to my question, of the three, this one has the look, it has the sound, and it has the power. Mm-hmm. So it's the total package.
Total package, yeah. So, and then you were talking that in the back you're working on something that's...
Yeah, I've got a 3600, Chevy 3600, which is the bigger version of the 3100 pickup.
Okay.
So it's 52, excuse me. And as I mentioned, I've always wanted to, I've always been decent at mechanical work. I've never built an engine, but as far as, torn apart a transmission, but, as far as doing restoration or doing brake work or, converting from, converting over to disc brakes, I can do all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But I've never really, and I'm sure I can do an engine, once I put my mind to it.
Sure.
It's not that complicated.
Yeah, you got YouTube also. That'll square you away.
Yeah, the TV right over there.
So the goal is eventually to do that truck in its entirety. It doesn't have an engine in it, it's just a shell. So I want to learn how to do body work. I want to learn how to, repair rust. I want to learn how to, do it all correctly. So and even if it doesn't come out right, I can strip the panel back down and I can do it again.
Right. So when you go to shows, how do you decide which one you're going to take on any particular Saturday or Sunday?
That's a good
Flip
question.
Coin, you just, or whatever your mood strikes.
Yeah, it really is mood. A lot of the times I will end up deferring to this one just because there's a drive involved.
Everything we've talked about, yes.
There's a drive involved going to the show.
Right.
And like I said, this one's the most fun to drive.
And then you have a trailer that you...
I do.
But just a single car trailer, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So it's not bring all three to...
I wish.
So inclined to take all three to a show.
Yeah, it would be nice if I could. My wife's not into the cars, but my youngest daughter does have an interest. She's gone to the Virginia Beach show with me a couple times. She's gone to some shows around here with me and gone to Ocean City with me. It would be nice to get all three cars at one show at some point. And I think, there's a show at a museum here towards September, as I recall, I may let her drive the 70.
Oh, there you go.
You know, even though it's against Haggerty rules, you know, they don't like any 18-year-olds driving classic cars, but I may let her,
Right.
you know, just hoping that
You'll be
nothing
right there.
happens.
Yeah.
But in a perfect world, I'd love to have all three at a show somewhere.
Sure. Wouldn't we all? Yeah. And there have been some folks in coming to the Coastal Virginia Auto Show that we've done this. We've actually done the car dance with them because they're right down the street and rotating through to get 2 or 3 cars in. So, anything? I'm sorry.
Yeah, go one more time, right from where one thing we haven't talked about.
Yeah. So one thing we haven't discussed in this particular car that we have on the other two is the interior. So
Right.
take us through the interior on this one and anything since you've got it, changes you've made, or did it come this way?
Yeah. So it was, when I bought the car, it was just the original
Bench seat.
bench seat, the original rear seat. So everything that you see has been replaced. I mean, it's got the bucket seats that are color coded or color matched with the red and the black. It's got the custom console with the double din radio. I've got a backup camera on it. I've got the modern gauges that show me everything all in one package. As I mentioned, it's got the sport shifter, so when I bring it all the way down to drive and then move it over, I can control all the shifts from that position.
So the grommets are kind of neat. Did you come up with that design, or?
No, this interior was a package from a company called TMI.
Okay.
And they do different interior packages for actually a lot of cars now, but initially it was for Camaros and Tri-5s, and they've branched out since then. But they have probably, now probably 20 different seats that they offer, and they give you the choice of, what material you want to use. If it's 2 colors, what are the 2 colors that you want to use? What's the thread color that you want to use?
Sure.
And then for different seats, they have the grommets, and do you want silver grommets, or do you want bronze grommets, or whatever the case might be. So, everything they make, the door panels, everything. So it's all matched.
So they do
with
that, and you
same
installed
style.
it all, and
Mhm.
yeah, okay, very nice.
Yeah. And that's probably another reason that I enjoy driving this car is it's really comfortable. Yeah. The seats, they have good bolster to the sides and stuff, so they've got a nice snug fit to them.
As you close the door, we just recognized or realized that the windows are tinted. So is this a film that are on these windows, or is this actually the glass itself?
The glass itself is tinted.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you purchased this, was this like this, or did you have the glass done?
No, it was
like
the glass was already
Was
tinted
already
like that.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's that gives a unique kind of look to it, and you don't see any of the tint lines like we were talking about
Right.
that are in there. So
And like I said, he was from Florida, so I suspect it was to help with the sun.
good sign, sure. Yeah. And then, well, I guess on this one over here, that the 70, that is actually a film.
Yeah, it's a film.
You had put on.
No, it was already
there. Okay. Yeah, very cool.
And it's, in my mind, it's too dark. When you roll up the windows on the side, it just seems a bit too dark. So
Now, one thing we haven't done, all the trunks we haven't looked in, is it similar? You've kind of updated, or are they original, kind of the original trunk?
this one has a kit, so it's completely enclosed. The Camaro has a kit that's completely enclosed. The 70 is just the original look. Yep.
Okay. Very good.
All right, so it's been a great tour out here with Jeff. I'll tell you what, we are very impressed with the vehicles out here. Well worth the drive to come out and visit with you. Also, as I've been going around, I've seen awards from just about every year of the Coastal Virginia Auto Show.
Yeah.
You have one of my absolute favorite awards, which is the wire wheel with a spinner on it that we have down with the rotor down at the bottom, and had some people helping to build that, and then he painted it up for me and all that. So that was really cool to see. Also, you have one of our least favorite awards are here, which we won't speak on, but you also have the glass award. So again, we appreciate you coming out and supporting the Coastal Virginia Auto Show. And I know you're looking to us to see which one vehicle we want you to bring, but really,
If any.
this is for sure. You're in. But the whole thing is that we got to figure out which one you want to bring out, because they're all fantastic vehicles, and the whole thing is that you know, everything is a project that never ends, but, you know, whatever you feel like bringing out and sharing with us, we appreciate it. So we're looking forward to that, and we appreciate the continued support. And again, you're on the page along with everybody else, which is awesome. And you guys, you can like and share and do all that other stuff with this as well. But,
Well, do we care which one that he brings? I mean, I kind of have my favorite that I'd like to see him.
It would probably be a Camaro,
kind of
right?
tough. It's it's going to be a Camaro. Yeah. Although I do have a soft spot for the Tri-5s.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would be a Camaro of the pictures. So.
Yeah, I mean, I know you guys want to have different cars.
yes, we do like
per
that.
year,
Yeah.
so
Mhm.
I can bring the 70 this year.
Yeah, I hear you.
And
We have some time to decide. So again, I mean, definitely whichever one you want to bring out, we're going to love it because I mean they're all of the caliber that we're looking for the Coastal Virginia Auto Show. The thing is that we want the cream of the crop to come inside. Things that people haven't seen, and again, for us to travel 3 hours to see you, we know that our Virginia Beach locals haven't seen these vehicles. If they did, they've only seen them for a short period of time at our show. So it's always good to see them again. But again, registration is open at this particular time in 2022, 2023. So whenever you're watching this thing, Coastal Virginia Auto Show is always in November. Don't you worry about that.
so you're telling me that I can tell my wife that I can go out and buy a new car, another car next year.
If you have to.
Because
You have to.
you need
Yeah.
a new one.
That's right.
at the
Help
show.
me help you.
Exactly.
Help me help you. All right, John, what do you think, man?
Hey, I'm really happy that we made the trip up here and got to spend some time with Jeff, and real impressed with your setup here. And of course, being a horse guy, that was nice. We might have to walk across and see the horses.
Yeah, you
before
might see a little glimpse of some horses.
So, but yeah, Jeff, thanks for inviting us
Yeah,
up
it's been
and,
my
and,
pleasure.
and coming to see you here, and looking forward to obviously seeing you in November. So,
All right, and then I'll be the one to make a comment on Jeff's phone. You are a very important guy. That is you pinging and dinging and everything.
Actually, it's his wife saying, "When are you coming in for lunch?"
That's
So,
right. That's right. All right, guys. So we just want to say thanks again to Jeff. Thanks for bringing us out to the compound out here. Very fantastic, and we'll see you guys real soon on the road.
On the road.
All right.
Thanks,
See you.
Herbert.
All right. Jeff.
John.
All right.
Bye, guys.